The boroughs are New York City. The burbs are everywhere else. Real estate is the ultimate game of risk and reward. It's the biggest investment most people ever make. Fortunes are made over a lifetime and lost in a day. And we're not playing with monopoly money. How do you stay ahead? Who's buying? Who's selling? And why? What do they know? We want the truth. You need an edge. Boroughs and Burbs is your secret weapon, giving you the insider knowledge and strategies you need to succeed in the high-stakes world of real estate. From Palm Beach to Palm Springs, Manhattan to Malibu, we press the experts to expose the pain, find the deals, and occasionally predict the future. That's Boroughs and Burbs, Thursdays, 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. Because everyone can make money in real estate.
Welcome, everybody. Boroughs and Burbs, number 205, season 5. Today, how to find a balance between old and new. And we have two special guests, Carey Karlan of Last Detail Interior Design in Darien, Connecticut.
Yep.
Hello.
Hello.
And
hello.
Antonio Vergara from Stamford, Connecticut, Casa, Vergara Interiors, but calling in from High Point, North Carolina, where he's at the major trade show today. Say hello.
That is correct. Hi there. Yep, coming in from North Carolina. The weather is pretty nice over here, so glad to join.
It's always better weather in North Carolina.
You'll be surprised. There was one year where we had a hurricane here, and we couldn't even make it to our house. Everything had flooded. So sometimes it can be lucky to be up in New England.
All right. So let me take you through a few words of introduction. We are Boroughs and Burbs. You'll find us at boroughsandburbs.com. I want to thank our sponsor, Grace Farms. You'll find them at gracefarms.org, and you can browse their teas and coffees for the fall. We've got Breathe, Lemon Ginger, Signature River Roast, and Single Origin Columbia. So go check it out at sharegracefarms.com. This is my weekly column. This week, we talk about how the combination of technologies is going to affect the housing market over the next 5 years. So check it out at theengelteam.com. RobertoCabrera.com. He's got a new market report out for the New York market. It's a buffet, caviar or corned beef hash. New York's got both flavors this month. Check out what Roberto's cooking. What I found interesting, one other point, he goes into the 1.5% difference we've seen in the last 24 months in interest rates and how that translates into the difference between a $7,300 payment to a $6,300 payment. And that's what's driving, perhaps, that's one of the things driving the New York market. Yes?
A little bit. It's a buffet.
All right, one more. Hold on. We go back here. I want to point out CareyCarlan.com. She's our special guest, as I pointed out, from Darien, Connecticut. We're going to go through her portfolio here in just a moment. And Casa Vergara Interiors.com, Antonio Vergara. Without further ado, welcome, both of you. So glad to have you on the show.
Great to be here.
Great to be here, honestly. This is fun.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. Carey, what is Last Detail and how long have you been doing it?
Over 30 years. This is my second career. I started out as an executive selling television time and dealing with a lot of sometimes unhappy clients, and sales always helps you through any profession. So it translated beautifully. And the name Last Detail comes from the idea that oftentimes people get their furnishings in, they've spent so much money, they get them in, we put them in the room and they say, this does not look like El Decor. This is not what I had hoped. So I do have an emphasis on finishing the job by bringing in a lot of art, accessories, zhuzhing it up. So, yeah.
She froze.
All right, you're freezing on the tail end of that, but we did hear zhuzhing it up.
Oh, sorry. Zhuzhing it up until it's done, until it's ready to be photographed. because it's hard to choose. If you show people things one at a time, this lamp, that lamp, you can spend 4 hours deciding which lamp. If you bring in a whole bunch of stuff, it's the mosaic that kind of tells the story, and they're likelier to buy it and be happy.
I am so excited to meet you, and you're only 4 miles down the street.
I
You
know.
have some nice stuff, right? I'm going to point out things like, I'm going to say, I love my toys here,
Yes.
and it's just not, it just doesn't feel like a curated experience. Can you help me? And you're going to tell me that you can take my toy truck and my sailboat, and you can help me
It will look like
actually make sense of all this.
It'll look like an important collection, highly curated.
I want this.
Group it together.
Our customers want this.
Yes.
All right, Antonio, unmute yourself. There we go.
So, I actually started when I was 18, and I was actually a business major. And then I started working for, at the time, Wakefield Design Center. And I had taste, and I really enjoyed working with furnishings. And at some point, I did decide to then change my my major to interior design, and I pursued that. But I worked as a buyer there, and now I help them transition from Wakefield Design Center to Fletcher Wakefield. I do have Casa Vergara interiors from my namesake, Antonio Vergara. And that is, it's sort of grown just because the interior designers who also shop at Fletcher Wakefield, they kept telling me, "You are so talented, please design, please design." So here I am putting myself out there too. But yes, so I mean, I started very traditional, and we've grown contemporary, and now it seems we're gonna go traditional again. That's what the market is telling us.
So let me understand this. So Carey is a designer, but you're a designer some of the time. But we're talking about Fletcher Wakefield, which is an interior design showroom, and you help people like Carey source
That is
around the
correct.
world.
So before IA existed, or yes, artificial intelligence existed, I was your sort of AI tool. You would tell me, I want a 98-inch table with a leaf that expands, that does this and does that, and I want it in this sort of style. And I would just search my files, my mental files, and I would pull it up for you. And so interior designers use me as a sourcer. So I basically just give them ideas, and then we have a conversation at the showroom of what we can offer them as far as style, silhouette, and lifestyle. Also what's going to what is going to benefit the client. Do they have a bigger family? Do they have a small family? Do they want something that's durable, or do they want something that's just for a couple of years till the kids grow older?
So ordinarily, this Fletcher Wakefield, your home base, is in Stamford, Connecticut.
That's correct. Yes.
But today you're in High Point, North Carolina.
Yes.
For the 1 week out of the year super duper trade show.
It's our fashion show. It's our fashion show.
Okay.
This is when we see new trends emerge. This is when the manufacturers tell us, this is what's coming. This is what you're going to see in the upcoming years. These are the colors. These are the materials that we're going to be using. Absolutely.
So for all of us who are taking notes, okay, we're supposed to lean in now, and you're going to tell us what the trend is for this year, right?
Absolutely.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
Okay.
But before you do that, can we lead to that? Because you said traditional, contemporary, now coming back to traditional.
Yes,
Who's
sir.
determining that?
It's really the market as a whole. You have seen, when I first started, you had these sort of warm colors on the wall. They were sort of peach and yellows and off-whites. And then it all turned very
What year
gray.
is this? What year is this?
We are probably saying 2000 and tail end of 2010. I would say before that, it was all that. It was peaches. 2005, it was all peaches and off-whites and all those colors. And then around 2010, 2012, you started seeing more grays, more of the polished nickel. It just started changing. And
Have you
then
seen Roberto's apartment? I mean, Roberto's
so
still there in the gray and
exactly. And
polished nickel
and
department.
you know what? And you know
My
what?
gray period.
Actually, most of the country still is. When you ask all these manufacturers what their most popular finish, what their most popular colors are, it's still very much gray. It's very much that Benjamin Moore Nimbus color. So you still see a lot of that.
And that started
However,
in 2010s, you're saying?
2010, 2012, you were seeing all of that.
When gray is the new black, right?
Gray is the new black. And then, 5 years after that, you start seeing the brass come in. The brushed brass, everything is turning a little warm. And back then we're like, oh no, brass, 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 no. And now we can't live without it. You see everything out there and it's all brass. It's like the thing to have. So it's really interesting to just see sort of these periods of time where the market says, oh no, you have to go back to this and you have to go back to this. And now what we are seeing is a major shift into more transitional and traditional. So that is, yes, that's right. Please take notes on that.
And also the market needs change. I mean, that's another reason why
Go on. Go on. You can't just leave us hanging. How is it changing?
well, it needs to change. I mean, people get tired of what they had, and the industry needs change to get a new look, to inspire people, excite people, and change it up. Otherwise,
Is it okay for me to be tired of all those black doorknobs and black hinges? I mean, are we
yes,
done with that already? Is
that's the
Antonio
beginning of the
giving me
change.
permission to go to
People are done.
brass?
Yeah.
I will tell you this. One of my mentors did always tell me this. We were always okay with having that brass chandelier and having your silverware at the dinner table. So I'm okay with mixing metals. Honestly, I don't have a problem with that. Especially as homeowners are always trying to just do a quick refresh in their home. They don't know, do I pick polished nickel? Do I pick brass? Do I pick black? So I honestly don't mind mixing metals. Just don't get crazy. It's also shouldn't look like a showroom, like you're selling hardware.
But but this is very
around.
subjective then, because you're saying you don't mind, and I'm sure someone would come in and they'd leave a dinner and they'd be like, "Can you believe they had this and that?" I mean, right?
There's total snobs out there, and that is fine. Just don't invite them back.
Well, so let's talk about appropriateness. Carey, I mean, one of the things that we wanted to talk is striking that balance between old and new. And so I think if we're talking about a mid-century modern house or a 200-year-old antique or a fresh white walls, blank canvas New York apartment, I think the rules are going to be different, right? I mean, in some places you feel that the mid-century modern might dictate some of your choices, not just your client's aesthetic.
Absolutely. And some styles are more definitive.
Nope, we cut out on definitive. Some styles are more definitive. What?
More rules, and more rules apply. There are more guardrails, more expectations of what you should have. But I would say increasingly, I do see more of a mix. That people don't tend to have theme houses. Completely mid-century modern. That's not as usually it is a mix. And if you have a very old historical house, I would hope that some stewardship would come in, some sense of preserving some of that history. But I also believe that the house needs to serve you. And it's unusual for someone to buy a beautiful old historic house and then have me come up in and say, change everything. I mean, my first question would be, why'd you buy the house? You know? So I think you can bend your house to your will to a certain degree. And when we go to some of the pictures, I have a good example of a very large, traditional, to the manor born Tudor estate type house that we did all kinds of surprising things
Mhm.
inside, but still kept the shell. And I think it's very effective. Just like you see sometimes in Parisian apartments, you know, you see the beautiful architecture, it's all very prim and proper, but the furnishings can be extremely contemporary. And I think it's a really
Yeah,
cool mix.
I think that is spectacular. The contrast of that, where you walk into something that has so much breadth and textured and layered, and yet you have very simple, sleek furniture, and vice versa. You have a
Oh,
very potentially a white box, something, and you're bringing texture into it, and and woods and things that have life. And it's the contrast. I've always loved that.
I do too. I like that tension. So if we look at color on a grand scale, that one on the
Look at those
website, is that what,
chairs.
yeah. This is a 15,000 square foot house. You can sort of get the idea from the foyer there.
I get
But
the idea that that's a lot of furniture.
yeah,
Fifteen
very
thousand
nice
square
job.
feet.
Second one for this client. So here we have again, this was like sort of think Downton Abbey in terms of style of of the house and the formality. All that wood was at one time that you see as white now was at one time oak.
Mm.
And so there, some people think that's a real taboo to paint that, but it wasn't particularly attractive oak. So it got painted. And then we have a contemporary table there on the right picture with the traditional formal huge um, foyer. And then if we come down a little bit,
Really interesting light fixtures as well. I
yeah.
mean, you really had some fun with those. So Sputnik
Oh,
looking
oh, trust me, this house
starburst.
was so much fun in every way. We used a lot of murals. I see, Antonio, and I bet you agree, murals are really coming back. So in the kitchen,
Absolutely.
a wallpaper mural
Hmm.
um, of an English garden, which sort of fits the mood of the house. We redid the kitchen.
Oh, all right. Okay.
So
But
there's the mural.
There's
And
your,
then
yeah.
and there's
if Carrie, if you don't mind, if we go back to that overall sitting area with
mhm,
the black and white sort of
the
that,
den. Hmm.
you know, uh, we had I had the pleasure of coming into this space and helping, Carrie with some of the furnishings there that she sourced at the showroom. That is, that's a very contemporary chair that's featured there by Thomas Hayes from Baker. That's the wedge chair. And it somehow just works just amazingly with the ceiling, with everything else that's going in there. It doesn't overpower it. It just complements the entire space. And that's
Right.
really how you blend in that
Also, that's a
traditional
good
style,
example,
right?
Antonio, that's a good example of adding more that you didn't know you needed till the end of the job.
That's exactly right.
I had sourced everything else custom ordered in advance, but the art and those two chairs were done at the quote unquote makeover finishing touches when we were like, whoops, we need a little more. The lamps we did in finishing touches, all from the showroom floor.
I
So,
am marveling at this. Wow. I mean, it occurs to me, I'm looking at the square window panes that match the way you matted the art, also square with the heavy white matting. And then the rug, again, we have the black and white grid reinforcing it. And so you're saying at the very end of that, oh, and the banding on the table, more black and white
yeah.
check grid.
Yes, this was the most restrained room in the house, to be honest. If we look at the dining room, you see the lavender chairs, again, as an example of a classical traditional architecture. And then I think it was up there. Modern art. So look at all the juxtaposition. The modern art, the classical, beautiful paneling, which was wood but was lacquered gray. Um, it's a mix.
Mm,
I mean, it's kind of a crazy mix, but I think it's fun.
it's very fun.
It's super pretty.
And then
Yeah.
one other idea, if I can just test your indulgence here, if you keep going down, look at the scale. Oh my goodness. Now look at this library. This also was wood paneling. Now that is shocking to people to paint that, but they like color. So we lacquered it, and there you go.
Mm.
And a
Wow.
custom rug. And then finally, there's a swing here, which you don't typically see on the right there. And I think it has a lovely story behind it. You just
Mm.
Oh, you just cut out.
uh-oh, we're talking about, you don't typically see that swing,
Mm.
but the owner's grandfather used to have swings in his house in
I
India.
bet they didn't
So
look
it was
like that.
comfort. Well, so make it work for you. And there's another mural in
Mm.
the powder room.
Very cool. Wow. And so this is a typical assignment. This looks like a very
I
big
would
and
like to
complicated.
say that's an everyday assignment, but I do all kinds of work, big and small, and I enjoy it all, really. Yeah.
Have you got any ideas for Roberto? I mean, he's still stuck in his nickel gray period.
Oh, he hasn't moved to brass or even mixed metals.
I'm happy.
Well, that's, you know what, Roberto, you just said something very, it's key. You
Profound.
know, it you have to be happy with it. Interiors, it evolves, once you hand the client the project and it's done, it's still going to evolve. They're going to get a book maybe from a trip. They're going to add their own things to it. The space is going to organically evolve. And at some point, with just, if you did it right, they will give you a call back and they'll say, hey, please come back. I need a couple of things. I need a refresh, or I need to redo this space. You did it for me 10 years ago. It's time to refresh.
Let's go back to talking about the blending of old and new. Carey, you live in an 1826 house,
I
and you
sure do.
talked about trying to respect that which is old, but bring it into the 21st century. Talk about where you find that balance and how you source that which you need to keep things authentic in an 1826 house.
Right. Yes, that is tricky because older homes like that really do not follow the flow or footprint of people's current day expectations. There aren't enough bathrooms, there are no ensuite bathrooms, there's no great rooms, there are a lot of little pokey rooms often. My living room is like a bowling alley. I don't know why it came out like that, why they built it like that, but they did.
And yet you have to put a big screen TV in a
Ixnay.
house that was never designed for a big screen
Exactly.
TV.
Exactly.
Right.
So but you don't buy that house unless the charm is worth the quirks, you know?
Yeah, but I'm your client and I'm not giving up my TV. I mean,
Well, I had a client in New York in a beautiful Central Park West uh, Art Deco apartment done to the nines. We had a TV in every single room, including the dining room and the bathrooms. I think we almost don't see the TVs anymore.
it's true. Yep, I live in an 1800 house, and we're struggling with that now. We're struggling with the fact that we'd like to have some TVs, but we do want them hidden. So
Yeah,
in the old days, you'd hide them in a cabinet, and now
right.
the TVs and the technology has gotten so good that with
They're
frame
more
TVs and
frame.
stuff,
Yeah,
it can be art, and
yeah.
yet that's not the answer everywhere. So talk to us about how you integrate find that balance between the antique house and the need for new technology, such as TVs.
Well, I'm not real up on technology. And in terms of TVs, I do have two TVs. I have one in the kitchen, but it's become I turned the kitchen into something else. I made it into like a keeping room. It has a sofa, it has two chairs. I turned a newer sunroom into like the family room. I just switched it up and again, kind of bent it to my will, but kept the beams, added beams. Um, and I do not have the most up-to-date technology. And I don't
And
care.
that's okay.
And that's okay with me. It's not okay with everyone. But I appreciate the things the house does offer.
So you have one of those TVs that's like a cabinet and it's in a box
I don't.
from like 40 years
No,
ago.
that's right. Vince
We
made
all
a
had
hot
those.
dinner, and we didn't need those armoires anymore,
You
right?
know, my dad had one of those gigantic TVs in his bedroom, and it was too low to see the bottom of it from his bed. So we constructed a foot tall like platform, and we carpeted it in the same carpet as the room,
Oh
and put
my
the TV
goodness.
on top of that.
Seamless, seamless. But I don't think people care
It was
as much.
chic.
Yeah.
Okay, Antonio, what is chic in 2025 in High Point? What's chic? Top three.
Well, I mean, you are one is color for sure. People for the longest time, we have seen a sea of neutrals, right? It was all neutrals. It's all, the natural oak and the off-white bouclés, and that's everything. I mean, you see it on every single um, website, furniture manufacturer, whatever. And now there's a whole wave of jewel tones and just these very rich um, mature colors. They're not primary colors. These are colors that just make you feel like you're in some lounge. And they very much set the mood. As the minute you walk into a showroom, you feel like you've stepped somewhere else. Perhaps Paris, perhaps like the Hotel Costs in Paris, where everything is just so rich, chocolatey, brown sort of lacquer and mohairs all around. It's quite a rich environment. The second thing I would probably say is, we're definitely seeing more transitional pieces. So less of the organic sort of um, uh, oak, the natural sort of quarter sawn oak look, and it's more of a maple finish. It doesn't have that textured or the veining of the wood shown. It's a very sort of clean finish on cabinetry, on case goods. So I'm seeing a lot of that, and it's also florals, a lot of florals, a lot of florals, a lot of floral embroideries, a lot of
Big pattern, little pattern, both.
big,
Big.
big. It's not small, it's big. Even herringbones have, turned from that smaller scale into just an oversize in a way. So it's almost like where when you step out and you see those kids wearing like oversized jeans and the bomber jackets and everything else. Well, there you go. You see that. So it's just a larger scale of print as well.
Can I ask you something? We're talking primarily about furniture here, right? Like couches and chairs and maybe tables and things like that, and dining tables. But is like, is the armoire gone? Is it? I'll bring Scott into this. Is everything now built in? Built-in walk-in closets. Like you see none of that. What about cabinetry? Like in a dining room, is the sideboard gone? Like the guitar solo. Like there's no guitar solo anymore.
I was just actually saying that, because we have a store, I was wondering, I'm like, should I buy a server? Because you used to get the servers and the buffets for the dining tables. We don't get a lot of that anymore. Everything is sort of built in. And even for that do-it-yourself client who's doing their starter home, they're going and they're finding those cheap sort of hacks at IKEA. You buy the closet and then you install it and you make it look like a built-in. That's where we sort of see that change. You don't buy the hutch anymore where you display the China collection. You simply just go to IKEA, build it, or have, or hire an amazing architect and builder who can just do something, impressive.
It is interesting. It depends who you bump into. Lately, I've had 3 clients, I guess it's just in the air, who want a Cotswolds look. They want a mismatched. One calls her home the fairy house, and she wants nothing to match, not even a pair of chairs, a very collected look.
I agree with a collected look. I, you know, my mother was always just such a big fan. She would never hire a decorator, and here I am.
Yeah.
She would always say, I want a curated look. I want to just drop the pieces that I love, that I have curated throughout my travels. Maybe it's a piece that I inherited, and just surround myself around that. It's different when you're doing a family room and you need something comfortable for the entire family. But I have also met a couple of designers, one in particular, who has told me even if he does a contemporary and he's sourcing contemporary furniture, he must always put an antique in a space.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
So what I'm hearing is that we need rooms for each of our moods, that the space behind Roberto is every bit as necessary as the space behind me, where I have my collections, I have my memories behind me, and you can clean up the clutter of somebody's library, and yet you can also give them the very calm space behind Roberto for the
Agreed. I
calmer
mean,
mood moments.
Carey has actually the perfect example on this. If you went back to that library, um, the the client did not want to modify his entire library at all. He did not want to touch that. So if you see the shelves, they're fully stocked with books. But she has done such an amazing job with the rest of the interiors. I mean, look at that rug. It gives you so much structure and scale with everything else happening there. That you almost, I mean, it's so layered. You don't see the books as overpowering or that it's going to deter from the interiors. It all just works seamlessly.
And the club chairs, they look new, but in the old style that is
Yeah.
appropriate to the desk.
Little vintage.
In a classical, there's no such thing as old. The sun, it's old and it still burns. So it's still a classical way. It's a classical execution of doing things.
I love that line. It still burns.
Yes.
So what else can we look at on the portfolio that's going to help tell this story?
All right, wait a minute. Let's tiptoe down if you wish to. I've got a lot of modern stuff too.
Rowayton Retreat. They only know blue and white in Rowayton.
All right, well, how about personal folly?
That's what I was going to say. What about that personal folly? Up a little bit, John, on the left. Yeah.
Wow. I've been reading in the magazines, and Benjamin Moore have all been picking these greens, these really interesting greens for the last couple of years as their color of the year. And I see you're making liberal use of it here.
Well, greens.
Well, Carey's known for her greens.
That's all about the greens.
So,
this is my old house before I moved into my even older house. But I think what's fun about this is a conservatory is kind of a very classic architectural traditional element, and yet I would say the color is not. We did the ferns and all the flowers and all that, but we put pictures of flowers on the glass, and then again I think the green and the zebra skin is kind of counter to that, but I like it. To me, that's kind of energetic.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you, Carey, when you do this, which it's spectacular, but what's the life cycle of this before you decide you think this is in 15 years you'll change it, in 20 years you'll change it, you'll never change it. Where does this last? What's its life cycle?
Is this trendy or timeless?
Right.
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think this is a good mixture of both timeless architecture, modern color.
But you can change it. You cut out for a moment. So modern, we heard timeless architecture, modern color, And if I feel like you're telling me that we can change out the a trendy color,
Yes.
we can repaint.
Yes. In fact, it's interesting. We talk about gray. I felt the pressure of gray several years ago, and I said, well, this conservatory, it must be gray. It must be pale gray. It must look like a museum. And then I'll put statues like the Statue Museum in the Metropolitan or something. Hated it. The life cycle for that was about 3 days. And then I got back to what I really
You
prefer.
actually executed it.
I executed it, and it was so
Wow.
And you know what's funny about this with the conservatory is I actually ordered this coffee table for myself.
I didn't know that.
I had ordered this coffee table for myself, and I had it in the shop, and I was going to execute it a completely different style, and then you know it just goes to show you how one piece can be interpreted, iterated in so many different ways, and that's why interior designers, they're almost like artists. You can execute it in so many ways, and still have something really, really unique.
Well, that's why I guess Carey's saying that you're the sourcing expert, that you've seen a table built out of lifesavers, and you're like, I've seen that before. I have just the thing for you.
Well, John, I'll tell you, they don't keep me there because I'm gorgeous. They keep me
But it helps.
It does.
So, where are we going? Give me the future of this. You say that we've already moved from grays, color is back. And now we're going back into brass. We're having some more fun with the past, with some of the past trends and bringing them back. Is this just another trend and the pendulum's going to swing back, or?
I've seen another trend in the use of homes that's interesting, and it's happened enough times, I'm going to call it a trend. And that is to repurpose rooms for a completely different use. So I have a lovely client, a very traditional colonial, and they decided that they just never used that dining room, not a bit, and a very traditional lifestyle, and yet they didn't use it. So we turned it into a woman's salon, and they have no dining room. Go figure, you know? Then I have another client who has a ginormous family room, and they decided we are turning it into something between a speakeasy and a men's club. We built in a bar at great expense. I mean, complete with the brass rail and the just incredible. Did a banquette in mohair in the corner. 2 big Chesterfield sofas. Painted it. It's your house, you know?
That's very true. I mean, I have a good close friend of mine who had the traditional dining room, and I fear that's what's going to sort of start disappearing. And we have turned it into a lounge. We lacquered the walls in a chocolate brown color, added some chocolate brown églamisé, mirrors on the backs of the built-ins, and added very transitional burled wood coffee table, so a lot of the yellow, a lot of the mohairs in there, and added some jewel tones onto that. And she was the most tonal person you could think of. So we're starting to see a shift in that. I also see a lot of people shifting back to the living room. For a period of time, you got to see a lot of people or even builders shrinking the size of the living room and making the family room a bigger space. It was a bigger footprint in the entire house. And now we're seeing more people put an emphasis in a lounge of some kind. An associate of mine, she just did a tequila lounge, specifically tequila. So you are starting to see more of that.
Is the repurposing of these rooms a lot of it like empty nesters, where the kids are gone, so they need all these rooms, and they're going to start doing other things with them?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. I come to think of it. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it's also, it's also people that just really, I mean, for the longest time during COVID, we couldn't really entertain, we couldn't. So they want a space where it's not just also a formal setting where you are sitting and, you know, having this sort of seated dinner perhaps, but it's a space where you can really interact with it. You can have sort of different settings and different sort of atmospheres. You maybe have a bar in an area, you have a sitting space in another area, you have a game table perhaps. It just, that's what I've been seeing as well.
All right. We've already heard and seen how Carey has transformed a 10,000 foot plus Gilded Age manor and brought it into the 21st century and introduced color, made it more contemporary, but respected the architecture. How small? I know it's more fun to talk about these big projects, but a lot of people are excited about what they've heard today, but they think, like me, they think, oh, well, I don't have the budget to hire Carey. I don't have the budget for Antonio to transform my room, my house. And yet, you said last detail interior design is all about that last 5%, the zhuzhing up what already exists. Talk to me about how small a project and how small the last detail can be and how approachable this is to the average person watching this show.
Well, for instance, in that conservatory shot, the art on the walls was just torn from a John Darien book and put in a cheap and cheerful frameless frame and just pasted on the, I mean, easy. Yesterday, in terms of small detail, I have a client who I've worked with for many years, and we've done a few bedrooms, and I went and I did her bookcases. I shopped at home. I used her stuff, kept it personal. It was meaningful to her, and just did her bookcases. That can make a huge difference.
What did you do to the bookcase?
Take everything out, every single thing out, and then put every single thing, not everything, and then put in what looks good, group things.
Oh, I need that. Oh, I know. I mean, look, I need that.
I could help you.
I think you can help me.
I could help you. Anyway, does that answer your question? I don't know. Lamps, art, those, those last.
There's
Oh,
definitely small items that you can do. Carey, we've refreshed a couple of your clients' homes as well, where a pair of pillows, some accessories, something that just makes it, the design perhaps is a timeless, it's a timeless concept, and we always encourage the clients to do something perhaps not in a specific color, or so that it does endure time a little better than most pieces in the space. But then you add and you swap things according to trends and whatnot. So maybe you'll do florals, maybe you'll do, a fair isle or a paisley sort of pattern on something else. It just depends.
coffee tables also are something to style
Mm.
that really makes a difference, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. The one thing that I think Carey can also agree on is, there's, no matter what you do, whether you have $100,000 to spend, or you are just, that IKEA shopper where, you are very limited with your budget, just make sure you see the entire see it through. Style it and make sure you have the books and the little bowl and everything else, because otherwise you just spent 100K or, whatever you had, and it doesn't look magazine ready. And you want that effect. You want it to really be layered and edited and feel like it is about to be shot, or it's hotel ready in a way.
You just said that, and earlier, Carey, in the beginning, she said, "Get it to the point where it's ready to be photographed." Is that to present, to actually culminate to the ideal of what you've been looking at and to capture it, but then people don't live like that? Or do you know what I mean? Like I'll show some extraordinary apartments, And if you come at the wrong time, it's very lived in. Like I have a client, had a beautiful apartment, and he wanted, and I came in and he had it all set up for me, wanted me to see because he was trying to get value and this and that. And then 2 or 3 days later said, listen, a couple of the brokers that I wanted to bring are coming. He's like, and he's like, but I have to fix it up. I was like, it was fine. He's like, but we've lived in it for 3 days. Do these, I don't even know what I'm asking, but I like you guys are curating it to like, just, you're making a piece of art.
It's
But
the
when you
difference
leave,
between the way
does
we live and the way we want to live.
Yeah.
And people have high expectations for decorating, to tell you the truth. I think they expect it sometimes to improve their mood, their marriage, their social status.
Makes me smarter. Yeah.
All of the above. And they've spent a lot of money perhaps, and they want to be thrilled, and they want it to make their life better. And if you do all those finishing details, they're happier.
Can you make me smarter and better looking, Carey? I love it. Through decorating.
Look at Scott's like, no.
There's a limit.
What's
John?
Go ahead.
Scott, what are the trends on rooms, for example? Like the new, like someone wants a tequila room. Like, what are the things that you're seeing, the people that are adding to footprints that you're just like, well, that's I've never heard of that.
Craft and plant room.
Yeah. I mean, in the not too long ago, like 10 years ago, I mean, the introduction of the Costco room, which is not a decorator's dream, but having that place just to deal with all the big stuff in the package rooms. It's not unusual to have those sort of bar spaces or some sort of specially entertaining. The joining of the living room and dining room into sort of a single great formal room, since, for a long time, nobody used the living room or the dining room. It's like, well, let's put them together. And then if it's going to be a giant party, you take out the living room furniture, or if it's going to be another gathering, get the stuff out of the way. I think that there's more health and spa things. So you're seeing more spa type areas inside of the house, and health and wellness type items. And then I thought it was very interesting on that furniture discussion that it does go ebb and flow, and it really depends on the client, where some clients are like no built-ins. I mean, everyone has some built-ins, but as minimal as possible. And I love furniture. More and more people, at least right now, I think, want more built-ins versus and some of the modern designs where you're actually hanging the sideboard off of the wall and cantilevering it out, which could or could not be a good idea. I mean, if we've all had those situations where you got to move that out to get the extra 3 people in it, and Thanksgiving, when it's built in, you aren't moving anything. It doesn't happen. So there's some of that flexibility of the furniture. And there's always that issue that, with furniture, when people change houses, all the room sizes change, and the light changes, and the curtains change. And so people go, I want to bring this furniture with me. And there's some timeless pieces that can come, and there's other pieces like, that was great when your room was size X, it's now size Y, and this doesn't make any more sense anymore.
Well, specifically, a lot of houses these days want 9 and 10-foot ceilings, and the furniture, some of the antiques that either I inherited or I fell in love with when I was a newlywed and mean something to me, were scaled for much smaller spaces, the spaces I grew up in, or that I was in as a newlywed. So now I'm in much larger space, to your point, and the furniture could look bitsy. And I think that's one of the reasons that we're seeing a response toward, well, give me built-ins so that I can transform the scale to be appropriate to the room.
You've got to steal them out of the Louvre from like the Versailles collection. So really big ones.
Scott, are you actually seeing a lot of golf simulator spaces as well? Because left and right. I mean, I've done 3 already.
How much ceiling clearance do you need for that? 11 feet?
No, even more, I would say.
It depends on the simulator, and what's become fun, and I'm sure you guys have seen this, is the golf simulator becomes a destination spot where it's at first it was just like, there's the simulator and a utilitarian space. Now you set up the bar and the watching area, and there's the TVs up there, so you can do the sports stuff, and there's a little lounge place, and all sorts of fun things that you can do in those areas.
Wow.
And I agree. We have seen there's more and more of them, and really it's to not take advantage of subterranean space in the proper environment. There's some places like if you're in New Orleans or Florida, don't do the subterranean. But in places where you can, getting those sort of spaces and creating these amazing play areas downstairs and socializing and gathering allows for a whole different vibe upstairs and gives you the designers and the owners a ways to have almost like totally different houses from one level to another with different formality and informality.
So Antonio, every year you go to this thing and you come away with a certain takeaway, and you're probably like, that was the greatest show we've had so far. That was the greatest show we've had so far. What's going to be the takeaway, and what's going to be the, you're going to go home, and what's going to change for you?
Well, it's so funny. I just started today, and I have to tell you, I feel quite validated right now. And I'll tell you why. For probably 2-3 years, I have been. A lot of people want a game table. It's a game table. They want to, but they don't want it to look like they have two game tables or two dining tables very close to each other. They have the dining room, and that might be round, and then they have this, and it's also round. And what I have been doing for a while is lowering the dining table height to around 27 inches. And so from 30 to 27, and then grouping that around like heavier upholstery. Instead of dining chairs, I am using club chairs and swivel chairs around that sort of pre-configured dining table with a different height. And I have been to 3 manufacturers already, and they are all now introducing this new height. Everyone is doing this new height where what Scott was saying, where they're mixing in the living room and the dining room. I think this is where it's going to head, and you're going to start seeing it in more of the everyday sort of brands like the CB2s and the West Elms. You're going to start seeing this new height of.
Is it called the Vergara height now?
Oh.
Do people now know it when they walk into a room and they're like, oh, clearly this has been redone in Vergara height?
You heard it here first.
I hope you get your nickel every time they use your idea.
But it is stunning. I mean, I've worked with designers who have even placed even small love seats, right, with 3 swivel chairs. And what it does is,
so this becomes like a game table, and it's more loungy.
It's more loungy. People are like lounging on it, and they're playing a game, and they have the takeout on it, and it's quite an organic space where where we were saying is you don't have to clean up. It's okay to have this very lived-in experience, and it's not buttoned up, and it's quite nice. People want to also just be honest about their interiors.
It's interesting. When I grew up, we belonged to this country club, and it's now been torn down. But they had this round bar, big round bar, and all the older men would sit around the bar. The bartenders would walk, and they would take 2 or 3 steps down to the bar. So when you were sitting, they were all in lounge, club lounge chairs, and the bar was maybe mid-thigh. And it was so inviting for them to just sit there, and they would smoke cigarettes and everything. It was crazy. But it's because the bar was lower, and that allowed them to not be in bar chairs. They were in like lounge chairs.
That was me last night. I was sitting at the kitchen island, right, where you sit up straight, and I was exhausted. And I turned to my wife and I said, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to go sit in the comfortable chair right back on the comfy sofa, just like the one behind you. At a certain point, you want to stop leaning forward, and you need lean back moments, and you need them in your kitchen, or at least I do.
Absolutely. But it's just, if we go back to like Carey had mentioned Downton Abbey times where there was a certain way of doing things, and certain rooms played certain roles. It really comes down to a social cultural movement and how we live, how we interact with each other. The Kip Space Show House in New York featured a Zoom room by Charles Pavarini III, and that was just an amazing space where he blended in OLED technology, lighting, and digital SLR cameras that were all integrated into the space in such a wonderful environment. The backdrop was done by a Cristallo. I mean, it looked like, and I recorded in that space, and it honestly felt like I was in my own TV show. But it just goes to show you, this room would have not existed had we not had, you know, COVID and this and that. You know, I mean, it really comes down to how, as a society, we just sort of weave or maneuver ourselves through time, through different hardships, through different, you know, it just changes and evolves.
This has been a great show.
Yeah.
I was trying to find the Zoom room, but it's not coming up for me.
Oh, it's amazing.
Oh, so just Google
Fabulous.
Charles Pavarini,
I did,
Pavarini
but
Design.
it's a slow connection. So I want to thank Antonio Vergara, and you'll find him at Casa Vergara Interiors.com. I want to
And
thank
Fletcher Wakefield.
Last Detail Interior Design, Carey Karlan. There's Roberto Cabrera. You'll find him at BHUSA. And there I am, John Engel. You'll find me at Elliman.com. Thank you, Grace Farms, Teas and Coffees. Thank you, Grace Farms. And you'll find this show at Boroughsandburbs.com in a half hour. Thank you so much. This has been tremendous.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
It's a lot of fun.
We're going to check in with you next year and find out whether eggplant and lime green are out, and we're going to get some new colors in, but I feel sure it's going to be colorful.
You'll be the first to know, I promise.
And
Thank you.
Your bookshelves all fixed up.
Oh, yes. I'm calling you on that.
He's
Bye,
back to
everybody.
IKEA.